Live Free TV with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Brought to you by the American Constitutional Rights Union. Live free.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, the Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union and the ACRU Action Fund. And welcome to another episode of Live Free TV, brought to you by the American Constitutional Rights Union. Please visit us at theacru.org. You know, I was up in Washington, D.C. over this Memorial Day weekend. It was a pretty big deal for me because it has been 5 years since the catastrophic motorcycle accident that I had here in Texas over Memorial Day weekend of 2025. I had decided finally in November of last year to get back on a motorcycle, got my wife's blessing and my two daughters. And so I jumped on my new 2024 Indian Challenger and headed up to Washington, D.C. for what was known as Rolling Thunder. Now, the American Vets Organization, AMVETS, has renamed it Rolling to Remember, but still the same. Veteran motorcyclists getting and riding through Washington, D.C. to bring up the issue of POWs and MIAs there that are still unaccounted for, as well as the issue with veteran suicides in the United States of America. But while I was enjoying being with veterans there in Washington, D.C., there was a young girl who, well, she just finished her first year at the Air Force Preparatory Academy, getting ready to go into the Air Force Academy. A young girl that was looking forward to one day being a second lieutenant in our United States Air Force. Her name, Ava Moore, from right here in Grapevine, Texas, not too far from where I'm sitting right now in Garland, Texas, and talking to you. She woke up on May the 25th. And decided to go out to Grapevine Lake and get into a kayak and just enjoy that weekend, being back from the Preparatory Academy and looking forward to going back to being a freshman, a plebe at the United States Air Force Academy. But little did Ava know that the sunrise that she saw on May the 25th, she would not see the sunset. And here's why.
The death of 18-year-old Ava Moore has become the latest chapter in the political back and forth over illegal immigration. Moore, who was heading to the Air Force Academy, was killed by a reckless jet ski rider on Lake Grapevine. Police say the suspect, 21-year-old Dikerlin Alejandra Gonzalez, left the scene with the help of an accomplice, Michael Perozzo. Investigators say both are Venezuelan nationals who entered the country illegally. After the arrest, Governor Abbott took to social media saying, quote, "Welcome to Texas. Here's your death penalty." Attorney General Ken Paxton also called attention to the case quickly. The headline of his news release was 2 illegal aliens arrested in connection to the death of a woman on Lake Grapevine. Among Republicans, this is an example of the shift from talking about the surge at the border to serious crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Illegal border crossings have sharply declined since President Trump took office. Lawmakers in the Texas legislature have pushed for bills that would create new laws addressing illegal immigrant crimes. One that is still up in the air is Senate Joint Resolution 1. If it clears the legislature and governor, there would be a public vote to create automatic no-bond conditions for illegal immigrants accused of certain crimes.
Ava Moore just completed the Air Force Academy Preparatory School, getting ready to go back to start at the Air Force Academy. Her life is cut short by 2 individuals that were allowed to come into this country illegally, released into this country. And tell me, how is it that someone here illegally, which is a crime, I don't care what Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says, but how is it that someone here illegally can acquire a jet ski? And then how is it that someone that's here illegally is able to have a car, a vehicle that would enable and assist the person who had just killed Ava Moore to try to flee from the scene, a hit and run on a jet ski, and runs over Ava Moore, who was out there on a kayak? Now, this is what is really incensing the American people. All of these district judges and all of these Supreme Court justices are talking about how these individuals should be allowed certain due process. Well, your due process will be just as Governor Abbott said, welcome to Texas. Here's your death penalty. Because this is part of the invasion. These were invaders, single military age, male and female, who came into this country and had so little concern about life that they killed a young American woman, a cadet entering the Air Force Academy, and then attempted to flee the scene. Not to take responsibility and show some type of reticence or some type of I'm sorry. No. Why should they care? Because they entered into this country illegally. So why should they care about killing an American? This is the problem that we have throughout this country. And the greater problem is that we have these lower court judges that are impeding with a duly elected president who has the enumerated power to provide safety and security. This is the problem when you have local jurisdictions of sheriffs and law enforcement officers. They're saying, we're not going to work with ICE. This is not political. This is about constitutional. This is about protecting the sovereignty of our nation and as well protecting our citizens, our legal, law-abiding citizens. An 18-year-old girl who was going to be entering her freshman year as a cadet at the Air Force Academy. So when I look at the death of Ava Moore over Memorial Day weekend, the blood, her blood, is on the hands of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You can say, well, Colonel, that's kind of harsh. No, it's not. Their open border policies are the reasons why Ava Moore is dead. Listen to this next clip.
It's my understanding both individuals crossed the southern border in 2023 or 2024. They were arrested at the time of entry, processed for a notice to appear, and then released on their own recognizance.
They were quote unquote arrested. Well, if you arrest someone, you charge them with something and they're held accountable, or you just turn them around and say, you're not coming to this country. You don't give them a notice to appear, which they obviously disavowed. How many more people do we have here in this country, single military age male, non-combatants, belligerents in this country that received a notice to appear during the Biden administration that are conducting acts of violence? We know we have quite a few. And how stupid it is that we have certain political party representatives that want to advocate for people that aren't even American citizens, that have conducted and enacted crimes against American citizens. They want to go and plead for them outside the country for what? To bring them back? District judges that want to tie up our legal system saying that these individuals have due process. No, you don't. Does a person coming across the border illegally committing a crime and then committing a crime against Americans, why should they be given some type of day in court? They shouldn't. In this case, they should be given the death penalty, which I'm sure they will be. But in most cases, they should be kicked out of this country, not be given a notice to appear, which most of them see as a permiso, the opportunity and the permission to stay in this country and do as they wish. It is time that we have people that stand up for the Constitution of the United States of America. It's time that we have people, especially some of these judges, who instead of being obstructionists and getting in the way of rectifying the situation that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris enacted. And let's ask ourselves this very simple question. Where were all these district judges when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were violating Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution and not protecting our borders? Why weren't they speaking out then? Now, all of a sudden, they want to speak out and they want these people that are here illegally to stay in this country, to have their quote unquote day in court, so that leftist judges, financed by groups like the ACLU and whomever, will just tie them up and allow them to stay here ad nauseum, ad infinitum. No, get them out of the country. There needs to be a message sent in the case of Dikerlin Alejandra Gonzalez and Michael Coelho Perozo, that if you are part of the death of an American citizen, you are here illegally, there's only one consequence, that you will lose your life. We're not going to put you in an American prison, and we're not going to have legal law-abiding citizens paying for you to live high on the hog for the rest of your life, like I'm sure we'll see what happens with the Laken Riley murderer down in Georgia. Should be the death penalty. That's how you send a message. What is quite disconcerting for me is that this woman, my Dakerlin Alejandro Gonzalez, she's just being charged with manslaughter. Manslaughter is a second-degree felony. This should be first-degree murder. And I'm just wondering who are going to be the, I don't know, the sympathetic leftist defense attorneys assigned to them. See, I kind of got to tell you, this is such a horrible thing that I don't see how any defense attorney will want to take this case. I think that every defense attorney should say, no, sorry. Two criminal illegal immigrants who killed an 18-year-old cadet for the United States Air Force Academy. They don't deserve my time and efforts to try to, I don't know, find some type of plea bargain, plea deal. They deserve exactly what they gave to Ava Moore, who woke up on May the 25th and just wanted to go out and kayak on Lake Grapevine. But she will never see another lake, another sunrise. And her family, who was probably looking forward to 4 years from now, pinning on her second lieutenant bars and being there at her commencement ceremony in beautiful Colorado Springs, they had that ripped away from them by two individuals that should not have been in this country. Shame on the left. Shame on Joe Biden. Shame on Kamala Harris. Shame on every single black-robed judicial activist tyrant that seeks to impart our blessed constitutional rights on people that are here illegally. So I want you to think about Ava Moore. I want you to remember this story because you're not going to hear it on the ABC, CBS, NBCs, the PBSs, CNNs, MSNBC. You're not going to hear it on the leftist propaganda media. But let's play the clip once again that starts off with the picture of Ava Moore so that maybe, perhaps, you can be just as incensed as I am about what happened to this young lady, a Texan, a young lady who wanted to serve her country in uniform as an officer in the Air Force, who had her life taken away from her because of people that believe that America is not a sovereign nation. Play the clip once again.
The death of 18-year-old Ava Moore has become the latest chapter in the political back and forth over illegal immigration. Moore, who was heading to the Air Force Academy, was killed by a reckless jet ski rider on Lake Grapevine. Police say the suspect, 21-year-old Dikerlin Alejandra Gonzalez, left the scene with the help of an accomplice, Michael Perozo. Investigators say both are Venezuelan nationals who entered the country illegally. After the arrest, Governor Abbott took to social media saying, quote, "Welcome to Texas. Here's your death penalty." Attorney General Ken Paxton also called attention to the case quickly. The headline of his news release was 2 illegal aliens arrested in connection to the death of a woman on Lake Grapevine. Among Republicans, this is an example of the shift from talking about the surge at the border to serious crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Illegal border crossings have sharply declined since President Trump took office. Lawmakers in the Texas legislature have pushed for bills that would create new laws addressing illegal immigrant crimes. One that is still up in the air is Senate Joint Resolution 1. If it clears the legislature and governor, there would be a public vote to create automatic no-bond conditions for illegal immigrants accused of certain crimes.
This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a right and wrong issue. It's a constitutional issue. Let us never forget Ava Moore. And this is why we at the American Constitutional Rights Union want to follow the Constitution and protect you and make sure that we do not allow criminal illegal immigrants to stay in this country. That's why we support our law enforcement officers and our sheriffs through our Defender Initiative, who are working with ICE to make sure people like Gonzalez and Perozzo are not on our streets, so that there will be no more Ava Moores. Thank you for joining us on this sad and solemn episode of Live Free TV. But maybe, perhaps maybe, you will stand up and fight for Ava Moore and all those who have been victims of criminal, illegal immigrants and the catch and release open borders policies of the previous Biden administration, which enabled this to happen. God bless.